Let's take a look at division with decimal quotients. A restaurant is serving ravioli tonight. They have 22 pieces of ravioli and need to put 5 pieces in each bowl for a customer. How many customers can they serve ravioli tonight? All right, well, if they have 22 pieces of ravioli and they have to put 5 pieces in each bowl, we can divide that by 5 to see how many bowls they can make up or how many customers they can serve. Now, 22 does not divide evenly by 5. When it doesn't divide evenly, I think it's easier to write it out this way as a long division problem. Now, when it doesn't divide evenly, there's a few ways we can write our answer. We could try to write our answer with a remainder, with a fraction, or with a decimal. Now, they gave us a hint here because it was with decimal quotients, so we want to write our answer as a decimal. So what I'm going to do, since I know I'm going to get a decimal here, instead of writing this as 22, I'm going to think of it as 22.0, right? Notice that's the same value as 22. I can put 0.0 on the end of any whole number. Okay, and now when I go to divide, well, 5 doesn't go into 2, but 5 goes into 22 a little more than 4 times, because 5 times 4 gives us 20. Okay, so 22 minus 20 leaves us with 2 left over. Now notice I added that decimal point here, so I'm going to make sure that I line up the decimal point in my answer with the decimal point there. Okay, 5's not going to go into 2, so what I'm going to do is bring down this 0. This is why we add the 0.0, so we can keep working. Now 5 goes into 20 4 times, and 5 times 4 is exactly 20, so now we have nothing left over. That's how we know the problem is done. So they can serve 4.4 customers. Now, realistically, you would probably say, well, they can only serve 4 customers. They don't quite have enough for the 5th. But in this case, they did ask for that decimal answer. So let's say 4.4. There are 83 people waiting for taxis. Each taxi can fit 2 people. How many taxis are required to pick everybody up? Okay, well, the people waiting was 83, divided how many people we can fit in each taxi, which is 2. And this is not going to divide evenly, right? 83 is not an even number. So what we can do to get our decimal answer is we can say, let's think of this as 83.0, right? That's the same thing as 83. And let's divide by 2. And of course, we're going to line up the decimal in our answer with the decimal here. Okay, well, 2 goes into 8 4 times, right? 2 times 4 is 8. And then I'm going to bring down the 3. 2 goes into 3 1 time. 2 times 1 is only 2, so we have 1 left over. So instead of saying remainder 1 or making it a fraction, what we're going to do is keep bringing down as many zeros as we need until we get a decimal answer. And 0 is our remainder over here. Well, 2 goes into 10 5 times, and that does work out evenly, right? 5 times 2 is 10. So when I subtract that, I get no remainder, which is how I know my problem is done. So they would need 41.5 taxis. Now again, in this situation, you can't really have half of a taxi. So you would probably say they need 42 taxis. But since they asked for the decimal, let's say 41.5. A cruise ship has 16 tourists waiting to get on board, but cruise ships can only fit 5 tourists each. How many cruise ships are needed in total to satisfy all the tourists? Okay, well, we would say the total number of tourists, 16, divided by how many tourists we can put on each ship, 5, is going to tell us how many cruise ships we need. And 16 does not divide evenly by 5. So let's set it up like this, 16.0, right? That has the same meaning as 16, divided by 5. Okay, well, 5 goes into 16 a little more than 3 times, right? 3 times 5 would be 15. So that leaves me with the 1. And of course, I'm lining up my decimal here. 5 doesn't go into 1, so we're going to bring down that 0. 5 goes into 10 2 times, right? That's exactly 10. So now we have 0 left over, and we know that's our exact answer, 3.2. Now, again, it doesn't really make sense to have 0.2 of a cruise ship, right? You're not going to send just part of a cruise ship over. So realistically, they would need 3 cruise ships. You would have to round it up to make sure there's enough for all the customers. But since they asked us for the decimal answers at the very beginning, we're going to write it as 3.2. William used 60 gallons of water over the course of 8 days. How much water did William use on average each day? Well, we want to know how many gallons per day. So to figure out gallons per day, we're going to take the gallons, 60, and we're going to divide that by the number of days, which was 8. Okay, and that's not going to divide evenly, so I'm going to write it as my decimal, right? 60 is the same as 60.0, and then I can continue and add as many zeros as I need, and I'm dividing that by 8. And of course, I'm going to line up my decimal right above the decimal point there. All right, the first thing I want to do is think, how many times does 8 go into 60? Well, not quite 8 times, that would be 64, so it's going to go in 7 times. Okay, and 8 times 7 is 56. So that's going to leave me with 4. Now, 8 does not go into 4, so I'm going to bring down my 0. And 8 goes into 40 5 times, right? 5 times 8 is exactly 40. So since that equals 0, I know I'm done, and my exact answer is 7.5. So on average, he uses 7.5 gallons per day.